Simcha, celebration, Simcha, Simcha, celebration of life.
Hi, I'm Eitan Berger. Welcome to Simcha, a celebration of life. Born on August 12, 1933, in the town of Vilna, the capital of Lithuania, Samuel Bak was recognized from a young age for his extraordinary artistic abilities. By the end of the Second World War, Samuel and his mother were the only two members of their extensive family to have survived the Holocaust. Recently, Samuel Bak was in South Africa to promote his exhibition entitled A Retrospective, and Simcha were lucky enough to get to chat to him.
I would describe Samuel Bak as a very lucky devil. Someone who was born in 1933 when Hitler came to power. Somebody who is a painter, of course, today, who from a community of about 80,000 Jews in Vilna, in 1944 was among the 200 who were liberated in Vilna, among the 2,000 who survived. Memory repairs a lot of things, so if I have an idea of my life having been so very happy, I sometimes wonder, was it really as happy as that? But I think it was, because if I had the structure after the war to be a kind of an all-right person and to do the paintings that I do and to have the courage to deal with the themes that I am dealing without really trying to escape or run away from them, it is because the boy I was, with a certain talent for painting, because I was 3 when this good middle-class Jewish family decided that I was not going to be a doctor, I was not going to be a lawyer, I will be a painter. Now this is a very unusual story. I'm not sure that I wanted to be a painter. I wanted to sell candies in the street because near our house there was this man who was selling candies and he had a little monkey and you had to give the monkey the money and the monkey would give you the candy. I thought this was fantastic. But I must say that I was, as a first, a grandchild and so on, very manipulative, and I very much agreed with them to please them and so on. Say, yes, I'll be a painter, and I painted and I painted. And actually, I became intoxicated with painting. At age 5 or 6, I wouldn't stop doing things with my hands, and so that when I was in the ghetto, age 8 or 9, already 2 quite known Yiddish poets of the ghetto, like Cherginsky and Sutskever, collected my drawings, made an exhibition. Just unbelievable that in the ghetto, in 43, there was an exhibition of drawings of mine. Art is born from art. Not every artist invents everything, but every artist takes something from art that existed and pushes it in a direction, to the left, to the right, forward, backward, and so on. So I'm continuing something that was done in the 16th century, it was done in the 17th century. Before that I did some things that try to look as ancient as if they were 2,000 years old. And if I'm speaking of the history, and there is a certain resonance of the Holocaust in my art, and of the tragedy of destruction, and tragedy of destruction of civilizations, and these things happened 2,000 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 4,000 years ago. So these are more or less the beginnings of my art.
Now 80 years old, artist Samuel Bak continues with the artistic expression of the devastation and dehumanization that form his childhood memories. He speaks of what are deemed the unspoken atrocities of the Holocaust, and while he is hesitant to limit the boundaries of his art to the post-Holocaust genre, he creates a visual language to remind the world of its most desperate moment.
Tonight it's my privilege to present our premier exhibition for the summer season, a retrospective journey into the art of Samuel Bak. This is a retrospective of Samuel's entire career. It includes works from his personal collection, works that have never previously been exhibited, and Samuel curated this exhibition himself.
And this show represents, in a wonderful way, a visual autobiography. He has chosen the pieces that are here. They each and every one represent different moments in his own life's experience in such a profound way. And what I can do is only encourage each and every one of you to stand before a painting, just to look carefully at the layers and layers and layers, not only of meaning and images that you recognize, but the questions that are asked by each and every one of these pieces. These are about the meaning of our life and how we live our life, how we commit ourselves to other people every day of our lives. This brief trip to Cape Town has reinforced, I think, for me, for Sam, those who came with us from Boston, from Mexico City, the necessity to be alerted on an ongoing basis to how privileged we are, how blessed we are, and how the responsibility to respond to the questions Sam continues to ask is ever present in all of our lives.
In terms of influences, there were so many things that determined the course of my life that it's very difficult to point out something extremely important, more important than the other. I think that maybe the most important thing in my life was the fact that the uncle of my mother, Arno Nadel was his name. He was an outstanding personality in the life of the Jewish Berlin. He was a composer, a playwright, a poet, a universal thinker. And he gave an order to his sister, my grandmother, to his niece, my mother, and all the family. This boy, don't bother him with anything. He is an artist, he will have to be an artist. And I think that I knew Uncle Arno was this kind of legendary figure, and he was revered and so on. His order is an order. And I must say that when, after the end of the war, when with my mother we went to Berlin to look for him, and we learned that he was killed in Auschwitz among the last Jews of Berlin, this order, you know, to fulfill the order of the people who were killed became extremely important to me. So somewhere that set in me. I think this was maybe the most important thing, because I felt that by doing art, I'm fulfilling not only his order, but also the expectations of all the family that wasn't there. I must say that I'm sometimes troubled when people ask me, there is this interpretation and that interpretation, do you agree with it? No, I say that everything that you can bring to the painting and get from it with your means is yours. I realize, for instance, that part of what I'm saying in all those pieces, bits and pieces that recreate something from destruction is my memory of having lived with so many survivors of the Holocaust, with broken identities, with broken souls, and out of these bits and pieces people got together. They mobilized all the resilience that was in them and created life, sometimes with more success, sometimes with less success. But this kind of recreation of a certain reality from a world that was shattered, I think this is something that nourished my vision.
His work is one of the most important art of survivors of the Holocaust, specifically because of the Vilna connection and also how he depicts a lot of the symbols of the Holocaust throughout his pictures. Life before, life torn, Auschwitz, the ghettos, the books, the burning of the books, all the symbols are steeped in the work. And specifically that he was a child during that time, and a child that saw the Holocaust is always very different than an adult that saw the Holocaust. And those images, symbolism, color, feel, smell, that comes through in his art that is absolutely emotional, actually.
What he seems to stress in the work that he does and what he speaks about is that although he came out of a Holocaust experience which is very specific to his life and his community, that it relates to a much more general human condition and human situation that we see continuing.
I think it's absolutely critical, it's crucial. I think that they have a role to play in social and public pedagogy, and I think an exhibition like this that speaks to dispossession, loss, ruin, sadness, and as part of the human condition that we're all accountable to not have a space to engage with that would be a loss.
Samuel's exhibition will be on show at the South African Jewish Museum until the 28th of February 2014. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for this week's episode of Simcha. Thank you so much for joining us. If you've missed any previous episodes, log on to www.spiritsister.co.za to catch up. From myself, Eitan, and all of us here at Simcha, we wish you a week filled with happiness and warmth. Goodbye.